Hola, bienvenidos al podcast de los tiempos progresivos. Welcome, I'm Senora Stanias. In this podcast, we're going to review the present progressive for Spanish 4. Make sure that you're taking notes as we go through this. You will need to be taking your own notes. I did not give you a sheet to fill in for this. Remember that the present progressive, el presente progresivo, it tells us what is going on at the moment, so actions that are in progress. Just like in English, we form the present progressive with the present tense of a star and then a present participle. They're also called gerundios or gerund, or that ing of the main verb. And here are some examples. Eric está sacando una foto. Aguayo está bebiendo café. Fabiola está escribiendo el artículo. And there you can see in their conversation. Te estoy hablando de Mariela. ¿Qué te pareció? Oh, creo que es bella, talentosa e inteligente. Más allá de eso, no me impresiona para nada. How do we form the present progressive? Remember that we need to have the present participle, the gerund. How do we do that? You can see for regular AR, ER, and IR verbs, you go from the infinitive, you take off that ending, go to with what you have left of the stem. For AR, regular AR verbs, add ando, so bailar, bailando. For ER and IR, you add yendo, so comer, comiendo, aplaudir, aplaudiendo. There are, of course, irregulars. We do have to remember that there are some stem changing verbs. They end in IR. They will also change their stem vowel. That could be different from when you're conjugating them. So you do need to write these down and note that they are different. You can see we have decir, diciendo, dormir, durmiendo, mentir, mintiendo, morir, muriendo, pedir, pidiendo, sentir, sintiendo, and sugerir, sugiriendo. All right. We do have some others that are irregular present participles. The infinitives ir, poder, reír, and sonreír. They're in parentheses there for you. So you have yendo, pudiendo, riendo, and sonriendo. Those are the irregular present participles. But you should also note that ir and poder are not used very often in Spanish in the present progressive. There's really very limited situations where they would make sense. Some examples you do have there are Marisa está sonriendo todo el tiempo. Maribel no está yendo a clase últimamente. And there is an example with ir, with going. And you can see there's very limited situations where that would make sense. Atención. When progressive forms are used with reflexive verbs, or if there are object pronouns, that there is two different places you can put those pronouns. You may either attach them to the participle, so that ando or yendo, and if you do that, you have to put an accent mark onto the either a and ando or the e and yendo, or otherwise the stress does not work out. Or of course, they can always be placed before the conjugated verb estar. So you can see some examples that there's these two sentences say the same thing. Se están enamorando, están enamorándose. Te estoy hablando, estoy hablándote. Please also note that the present participle of ser is siendo, which is also irregular. And now we have a few other irregulars when the stem of an ER or IR verb ends in a vowel, and these are some examples, then that I in the present participle has to change to a Y. So construir, construyendo. Sounds the same, but it's a spelling change. Leer, leyendo. Oír, oyendo. Traer, trayendo. Also, please remember that progressive forms are not used as often in Spanish as they are in English. They are really only used when you want to emphasize that this action is in progress at the moment that you're talking or the moment that is being described. When you want to talk about actions that have occurred over a period of time or that will occur in the near future, Spanish prefers to use the present tense. So you can see some examples. Lourdes estudia economía en la UNAM. Ahora mismo, Lourdes está tomando un examen. So the difference between she is studying, it's going over a period of time, we're going to use that present tense. But we want to really emphasize that right now, this is what's going on. Then they will use the present progressive in Spanish. The other example, ¿Vienes con nosotros al café Pamplona? No, no puedo. Ya estoy cocinando. Again, example of, even though the present tense is used with the first one, we want to emphasize in the second that this is not going to go on, and use the present progressive in the second one. Atención, again, notice that there are other tenses right now. We're looking only at the present tense, but of course we can use the progressives in the past as well as in the future. So, and we'll look at these a little bit later on in the year. Estaba marcando su número justo cuando él me llamó. An example of an action that was going on in the past when something interrupted it. And in the future, no vengas a las 4, todavía estaremos trabajando. And now we have some other verbs that have the present participle. We're almost always going to use a star, but here are some situations where Spanish will use other verbs in the present. And again, it's to express various shades of progressive action. So, and of course, it has to do with the meaning of the verbs. Seguir, ir, venir, and andar. So we will use them, again, in very certain situations. And as seguir, and with the present participle, will express the idea of to keep doing something. So it's Emilio sigue hablando. Mercedes sigue quejándose. Idea that this is continuing to go on. Ir with the present participle indicates a gradual or repeated process, and it will often convey the English idea of more and more. So, cada día que pasa voy disfrutando más de esta clase. Ana y Juan van acostumbrándose al horario de la clase. When we use venir and llevar with the present participle, then we want to indicate a gradual action that accumulates or increases over time. Hace años que viene diciendo cuánto le gusta el béisbol. Llevo insistiendo en lo mismo desde el principio. Andar with the present participle conveys this idea of going around doing something, or of always doing something. José siempre anda quejándose de eso. Román anda diciendo mentiras. This ends the vodcast. If you have any questions, make sure you've written them down, and we'll talk about them in class. Gracias y hasta mañana.